Da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review, and today I'm very excited to be checking out Battle Merchants from Minion Games. This is for 2 to 4 players. Age is 13 plus, and it'll take you about 90 minutes to play. And in Battle Merchants, you are going to be playing as merchants, creating various different weapons, and then trying to sell them to different factions throughout the game. This is an economic game where you are going to be slowly building relationships with these different factions and then selling them weapons. Hopefully your weapons will be powerful enough so that they will defeat other people's weapons, and you're trying to gain the most points in the end. Do I like it though? Is it good? Let's open it up and I'll tell you. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what's going to get inside of Battle Merchants. First and foremost, we got our handy dandy rule booklet. It is 12 pages, double-sided, full color, full of pictures, illustrations, examples, and it's very, very well done. It will have you up and running in no time at all. It's concise, but not too concise. Just a big, big thumbs up on this rule booklet. So in Battle Merchants, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be taking control of a Battle Merchant, this guy down here, and you are going to be trying to create various different weapons, and then to turn around and sell those weapons to different factions around the board, like the Orcs, the Hobgoblins, the Dwarves, and the Elves. I also do want to mention, before I forget, this is a double-sided board. This is for 2 and 4 players. On the back is for 3 players. You're going to have to spend money in order to create these weapons, but then you're going to turn around and sell it to the different races for more money. As you sell those weapons to the different races, they're going to gain favor with you. You will gain these chips right here, and then when you sell to them, you will make more money as you progress through the game. Now, you're going to be going through 4 different seasons. The seasons will end when battles occur, because battles will be happening, especially towards the end of the game, quite a bit. So there's tons and tons of components and things going on here, so I can't really cover everything, but I am going to go through the different components, and I'm going to go through the 4 different actions that you can take on your turn, and potentially the 5th action if you level up your weapons fast enough. Now, before we get started, I do want to mention that there's a very special way you play the 2-player game, where you use this Salesman Steve thing over here. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the very end. So let's go over the components, then we'll get a little bit into the actions you take. So first we get coins. You're going to get increments of 1, 5, 10, and 1, 5, 20, and 50. And they are perfectly serviceable, nice cardboard pop-out coins. Very, very nice. Next, you're going to get your player mat. This is really your hub, and this is where you're going to keep track of a lot of what's going on. So it's going to have what weapons you're going to be able to start when you first produce the game, because each different character is going to be able to start making different weapons. So I'm better at making swords and maces. Also, which faction you already have a little bit of an allegiance to. So the Hobgoblins, when I go and sell something to them, I'm going to make an additional amount of money. How much the different weapon prices are when you buy them and when you sell them, the different actions you take, and the different endgame scoring. It's a very, very nice graphically designed piece of whatever this is called. So as you can see, this is for 3 players. This is for 2 to 4 players. So next, we'll go around the board. I'll show you a couple of different things. We already alluded to the tokens. The tokens are going to help you gain favor with different races, and they will give you additional money when you sell to them. So in order to get an orc token, you would need to sell the orcs, which means you would need to sell a weapon right there or right there. Similar with all the other different races. Next, we have the kingdom cards. Kingdom cards really spice up the game. You are always going to have the option to purchase 3 of the kingdom cards. Excuse me. You can purchase 1 of the kingdom cards, but there will be 3 kingdom cards out. And as you go from A to B to C to D, they will get progressively better. So let's take a look at them. Take the Grasslands of Sig reward tile. So if you decided to use this as your action, you would take that tile, which is this little tile all the way over here, which means when you fought or when you sold weapons in that location, you would get additional money. So for instance, right here we have the Beaver Forest tile. So if I took this tile, if I put any weapons here or any weapons right there, it would gain me an additional $1. So that can be very, very useful. Next we have what are called craft cards. And these are the craft cards right here. And they are very similar to the cards you see down here. So essentially you start with 2 craft cards that are just on your board. You start making a sword and you start making a mace. These are going to make it so that you can make different weapons, such as the hammer and also the axe, at least in this case, but also some of them will have ×2, but as you can see, this one is going to cost you 2 coins times however many hammers you have. So it is expensive, but it will make your hammers more powerful, which means they will win various different battles. Some other cool, unique things about these are some of them will have a little coin on the bottom left. This will mean that whenever you make axes, they're going to be 1 coin cheaper, which is going to really affect your bottom line. One more thing that I want to mention about these, or actually, excuse me, these one over here, is there's actually 2 kinds of craft cards. There's one for the spring and for the summer, and then there's one for the winter and the autumn. And the winter and the autumn ones get really cool. They got some cool stuff going on, like 2 different ones, like, ooh, there we go. Double coin discount on swords, which can make your swords super cheap, which can really help you potentially win the game. Any other components I missed? Oh yeah, we're going to have cubes, and more cubes. These cubes are going to be used to show you, which of the weapons are being utilized that you created on the battlefield. And these are the battlefields right here. So let's take a look at them. So these are the places that you can go. Any of the spots that either have no token or that have this little fiery token right there mean that you can sell a weapon there. And I've told you enough about the components. Let's go ahead and get into the different actions you can take on your turn. So really, at its core, this is not a difficult game because you can only, most of the time, take 4 actions on your turn. First thing is you can upgrade your craft. That just means you go over here and you purchase one of these cards. And some of these cards will cost you money. Some of these cards will be free. And you just purchase it and you put it down there, just like so. And bada boom, your turn is over. That's your entire turn. And now your maces have a strength of 2 for the rest of the game. No one can take that away. Another action you can take is you can take a kingdom card. It's very similar to that action, except, you guessed it, you're going to be taking one of these kingdom cards right here. Now, some of these kingdom cards will give you instant abilities. Some of these will give you persistent, permanent abilities. Some of these ones will give you money. So that one's like, ooh, plus 5 coins. That one's a nice one. And some of them will give you end-game scoring bonuses. So that's another way that you can score points at the end of the game. The third option you can take, because yeah, we're flying through here. This is a very simple game once you know what you're doing, is that you can forge weapons. You can create weapons. Now, how do you forge weapons? You have to have your craft. So right now, the only thing that we can make are swords and maces, and our maces are a little bit more powerful because they would be level 2. So we'll look down here, and on your turn, you can make up to 3 weapons, and it's all right there, all nice and easy to understand. The cost to do so is listed right here on the weapons prices. So, for instance, if you want to make a standard weapon, it's only going to cost you 5. If you want to make a vorpal weapon, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a later, is going to cost you 15. Actually, we'll talk about it right now. Vorpal weapons are special, fancy weapons you can put on the board. They're very hard to destroy, which is a good thing. And also, when you turn around and sell them, they're going to net you more money. So that brings us to our next action. And this is the 4th action of the 4 actions you can do at the beginning of the game. And that was to sell 1 weapon. So how do you do it? So let's pretend we decided to build a mace. We spent $5, we built a mace, everybody else took their turn, and now it is our turn, and we can successfully build, we build a mace. So we spend our $5, comes back to us, and now we can sell this mace to someone. We can't put it here because that's an axe. We can't put it here because that's a hammer. So we'd have to look for an open mace spot, which means we could go here or we could go all the way over there. Now, we have a predetermined agreement with the hobgoblins. So we're going to be making a little bit of money with the hobgoblins. But unfortunately, we can't sell the hobgoblins. So you know what? We're going to go right here with the orcs. We'd put that right there. We would put our cube on that. And then we would collect our money, which in this case would be $6 because we sold that. So we only made $1 profit, but you know what? $1 profit is not bad. Also, we formed a relationship with the orcs because now we've started to sell to them. So boom, we can put that down there. And so now next time when we sell the orcs, we're going to make an extra coin. So we could potentially sell an axe over here if we had it. So you may notice that there's one additional action on this board, which is the forge and sell weapons action. And this is actually a card action. So take a look over here. This is one of the components that I did not mention because it wouldn't make much sense back then. And these are going to be for Master Craftsmen. There can only be one Master Craftsman for each different thing, for each of the different weapons, like the mace and the axe and the hammer and whatnot. And essentially, when you get this card, this is going to unlock one special ability that you can use once per season. So this one is the Master Craftsman, which is the mace. And he's going to be able to create a mace and then sell a mace on the same turn. Normally that would take you 2 actions, but for this guy, he could say, I'm going to do this action, he would flip it over, and then he could do all that stuff and essentially make really quick money by doing that on his turn. The only downside of this is that you can only make 1 piece of weaponry, whereas when you forge weapons, normally you can make 3 pieces of weapon. So, I think I forgot to mention it, but the Vorpal Axe, one thing I want to mention is that you have to be at least 5 craft in a particular thing in order to get that. So let's take a look back at our mace. We're currently at 2 maces, but if we ever got to 5, then we'd be able to make Vorpal maces, and then if we ever got to 6, we would get the Master Craftsman mace as long as someone else didn't take it. So how does the game end? How do the seasons end? Well, what's going to happen is eventually other people are going to be placing their weapons on the spots right there. Now, obviously that didn't fit, but I don't have a hammer handy. And what's going to happen is that once a battle takes place, you're going to take this little token, and boom, you're going to put it right there. Once this is full, everyone, aside from the person who ended the season, is going to get 1 more turn, and that's when the real fun starts, because you're going to see which weapons won in battle. So let's take a look right here. Let's just pretend this is a mace versus a Vorpal Axe. Vorpal always beats a standard weapon, which would mean that the Vorpal Axe would have defeated the mace. So the person who's yellow would take this, which could potentially earn them points at the end of the game. This is a destroyed weapon thing. And their weapon would get to stay on the board, which would earn them 2 coins immediately. So having your weapons on the board after the end of the season and after the battles is a great way to earn coins. Not to mention, these guys right here at the end of the game, whoever has the most is going to gain X amount of points depending on how many players you are playing. So this one you're just trying to have the first or second most in the 3 and 4 player game. In this 2-player game, whoever has the most is going to gain 7 coins. The game ends once you have gone through 4 seasons. Whoever has the most coins is going to be the winner. Now, this is a crazy jumbled nutshell, and there's even more craziness to talk about, because I got to talk about Salesman Steve. Salesman Steve is specifically in a 2-player game. It's going to be a rotating market, because as per the normal game, you're also going to have craft cards and the kingdom cards that you can purchase on here. But the catch is, when you purchase a card or you purchase a craft, another thing is going to get eliminated depending on which square it is touching. Also, when you sell a weapon on the board, Salesman Steve is also going to sell a really crummy weapon to someone else. None of his weapons will ever defeat you, but they do speed up the game and can potentially cause some interesting domino effects, which you can potentially plan for in the future. Really enjoy the 2-player game. But let's talk about that in the pros and the cons, because that, is crazy jumbled nutshell of how Battle Merchants is played. Alrighty then, Battle Merchants from Minion Games. One of my final thoughts. Go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, the game is not going to be for everybody for a couple different reasons. First, if you don't like economic games, this one might not be for you, because it definitely is an economic game. You're going to start off small, and you're going to be figuring out where you want to sell, what you want to do to maximize, to min-max, to get the most money. Now, it's not that crunchy, though, as a lot of other economic games, even though I will say the 2-player game of the version of the game is a little bit crunchier as you try and figure out where Salesman Steve is going to go, and why, because you want to try to be against him because he always loses, various other different things like that. But still, if you don't like economic games, it might not be for you. Also, 2 to 4 players, very restrictive player count. It's going to be hard to get to the table for some people. It's not hard to teach, but there is quite a bit going on when you're teaching people how to play the game. It's just, okay, you do this, and then you can do this, then you can do this, or you can do this, or you can do that. And that's it. You don't have that many actions, but then you're like, oh, but then there's these things, then you got this going on, and then, oh, but you got to get this, but then you want to do this and that, and there's a lot. It's a little bit of a steep learning curve, but once you get on top of the hill, it's a very, very simple game at its core. Any more cons I have with the game? The theme is generic, which is going to be a turnoff to some people. That's all I got. Because moving on, Battle Merchants is a really good game. That's what I can say about this game. I've played this with probably about 8 different peoples now. I played it with 2 players, 3 players, and 4 players. Everyone I've played it with has enjoyed it. Now, no one's been like, oh my gosh, this game is amazing, but everyone has enjoyed the game, which the group that I played with is very diverse. I played with my wife, who's not particularly keen on heavier games. Heavy to her. 90 minutes is heavy to her, and she really enjoyed this game. My game night really enjoyed this game. I could see this being a family game if you have older kids. I'd say ages 13 plus. This is a great family game. It plays well at all player counts. I liked it with 4. I liked it with 3. But honestly, I think 2 players was my favorite. And the big reason why is because Salesman Steve. I really like how that works, because you can manipulate him to go to various different places depending on where he's going to go and who's played on the board. He can really impact the game, and if you can be one step ahead to figure out where he's going to go, that really can make decisions interesting, but at the same time, your opponent can go in various different places and completely change where he goes, and I like that an awful lot. I also like the Kingdom cards. They spice it up a little bit. You're like, all right, do I want money now, or do I want to focus on maybe getting money in the future? And that's an interesting decision. I also like the crafting mechanic. I mean, I like everything about this game. It's hard to poke holes in this game. From a design standpoint, this is a great game. From a graphic design standpoint, this is a great game. Rule booklet is great. I like the artwork. It plays well at all player counts. I mean, just overall, this is just a no-brainer. Battle Merchants, if you are building a collection and you just want a solid game that every single time you get it out, people are probably going to have fun with it, this is one to check out. Now, are you going to play this every single week and be like, oh man, we're going to play that 2 times in a night? No. Probably not. But overall, Battle Merchants is a great game. I highly recommend this game, one that we had a lot of fun with. So that is Battle Merchants from Minion Games. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below in the comments below. Let me know, what is your experience with Pink Eye? I've had way too many bad experiences with Pink Eye. When I was a summer camp counselor, I actually had pink eye, but I didn't want to quit my job. I didn't want to have to take the leave, to take the PTO time, so I just smeared hand sanitizer in my eyes all day for like a day and a half. It really did the trick, but man, was it painful. Really weird back in my older days. But you got any interesting pink eye stories? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.